What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we're going over who I think the worst pick is in every round. For ADP, we're again using average industry rankings because we're still about 2 weeks out from really trusting site ADPs right now. So we'll start off with round one, where I want to preface with the fact that there are no bad picks. Everyone is a strong pick in round one. So we're really just talking about who my least favorite pick is. But my least favorite in round one is AJ Brown. You're going to start off pretty much every draft with Christian McCaffrey. I think this year how ADP, how value kind of works out is you probably do want to start off round one with a running back, or at least round one or round two. So I would say, McCaffrey, Bijan, Hall should be coming off the board ahead of AJ Brown. Then I think all of, Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Chase, Jefferson, St. Brown are super locked in, amazing picks, would have zero hesitations drafting any of them if you didn't want to go with running back. So then you're basically left with the trio of Garrett Wilson, Puka, and AJ Brown. And that's a group I broke down in a video maybe like 2 weeks ago where I did rank AJ Brown last. So again, it really just comes down to that. I think he's going to have a very strong season, but when we go over all of the players available in round one, he basically is just my least favorite. And since he goes closer to the middle and not that tail end at times, I'm just going to say least favorite pick in round one. Round two, least favorite pick is Josh Allen, going in like the mid-second 207. I do have him ranked as my top quarterback this season. I feel pretty good about that ranking. I don't think it's going to change. I think, come the end of summer, he'll be my quarterback one, even with him losing all of his pass catchers. He's just such a good quarterback, so good on the ground as well, such great touchdown equity on that offense. But again, going as the 207, I just can't take a quarterback that early unless there was a massive drop off. Like if he was the quarterback one by a mile and everyone else was kind of in like the Stafford range or something like that, it's like, sure, if you're getting that much of an edge, go for it. And also, this season, there's a little bit of that drop off at that 2-3 turn. So it's like, if that were to happen and we're having this drop off in talent a little bit earlier than usual, maybe I could justify it. But, there's a lot of really, really strong picks at quarterback this season. I'm not in love with round three Jalen Hurts, but I would say that's probably a little bit of a better value. You can get him the tail end of round three, but you could go with Lamar or Mahomes in round four. You could go with Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud in round five, Burrow, Dak, Kyler in round six, Jordan Love in round seven, or you could just wait a while, double dip on Daniels, Cousins, Stafford, Geno in the later rounds. In my opinion, you'll want one of those first ones kind of ending with Jordan Love. You probably want someone in the mid-range there, but I think all of those are just a little bit stronger values. I just can't use a round two pick. The data does not support taking a round two pick on quarterback. Round three is when we should start. And so I can't take Josh Allen in two. In round three, least favorite pick is Travis Kelce. Don't mind him on Underdog. Because a lot of times Underdog, you can get him in like the early fourth round. But at 303 as a tight end one on Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings, I can't go there. I think Laporta is, I don't want to say pretty clearly, but I don't see a ton of arguments for taking Kelce over Laporta. And to take him at 303 in a season where, he's turning 35 in October, I don't think he's too old, but he's obviously at, the tail end of his career. That is something they want to extend his career. They want him to play another couple seasons if he can. And so he has said, we are going to limit the snaps in the regular season because they know they're making the playoffs. They know they're going to go for a Super Bowl run. And so keep him healthy, get into the playoffs, and then fully unleash him in the playoffs. So there's no need for him to go all out during the regular season. Tony Gonzalez is the only tight end ever with over 825 receiving yards at 35 or older. No tight end that old has gone over 8 touchdowns. I just think going with Laporta makes so much sense. Also on a fantastic offense, but he's ascending in his career, not descending. So yeah, I just have to have Laporta ranked one, or just wait for better value. It's kind of the same thing with Josh Allen. It's not like Kelce and Josh Allen are bad picks, but wait anywhere from 2 to 5 rounds and take Mark Andrews, Kincaid, McBride, Pitts, Kittle. Those are the ones I would be targeting this season because they're also set up very, very nicely. but they come at a much better discount where, we're much less confident in the running backs and wide receivers in that range. Now we can attack the upside of those players instead of foregoing kind of the last running backs, wide receivers we feel really, really strongly about. And for someone who, again, is turning 35, is probably not going to have, like a 1,200 yard, 12 touchdown season. So at best, he's probably still going to be in the similar range as those ones I just mentioned. Take the discount, take those guys later. Round 4, least favorite pick is Rachaad White, being ranked right now as the 402, which is a full round ahead of where I have him. I just think it's a little bit too risky when, there are still a bunch of superstars available on the board at 402. Only McCaffrey had more touches than Rachaad White did last season, and yet he was only 14th in points per game. He has 3.7, 3.6 yards per carry over his first 2 seasons, but he's benefited from extreme volume in each season, especially last season. Again, only McCaffrey had more touches. That's going to keep your fantasy numbers afloat, even if you're hyper inefficient. But if you're going to take him as the running back 12, you're saying he needs to do better than last season when, again, only McCaffrey had more touches and he scored 9 touchdowns. It's not like he got unlucky in the touchdown department. On that offense, that's kind of what you should expect, maybe even on the high end. He could easily score fewer touchdowns. He will likely have fewer touches, so we're going to need the efficiency to go way up, which is not really something I'm expecting. I think Bucky Irving is a really good running back. For sure undersized, not someone who's going to take over Rachaad White's role, but they had nothing last season. They did not trust any of their backup running backs. I do think they actually like Bucky Irving. I think they're going to trust him this season for a larger role than the backups had last year. So again, reducing all these things for White and you're going to take him higher than he was worth last season, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Round 5, least favorite pick is Alvin Kamara, going at 503. I don't think it's an awful value, and I don't think he's going to be a complete bust this season because he is going to have a very strong role in the receiving game. I don't think he's going to walk out there with 2 touchdowns. I think his floor is relatively stable, but he's highly unlikely to have an elite ceiling this season. And it's a range where I really want to be shooting for upside. Historically, we look at rounds 4 through 6. There are a lot of players that go in this range that turn into true league winners, and it's I don't want to just completely cross off my upside there, taking Kamara, who's going to be 29 years old in about 10 days, coming off his least efficient season of his career, and he didn't really have anyone to challenge him last season. Kendre Miller was hurt all year. Jamal Williams was absolutely cooked. They were using Taysom Hill as their running back too because, they correctly had zero faith in Tony Jones Jr., in Lynn Bowden Jr. This season, I do think they're going to use Kendre as that number 2, assuming he can stay healthy, but we should be assuming health because we have no reason to believe he's going to get injured. Kendre should have, really strong role on early downs. You're going to have Kamara, still being the favorite on passing downs, but, Taysom Hill is also going to still mix in. This new coaching staff absolutely loves Taysom Hill. They're going to use him plenty, especially in the red zone. So I just don't see a world where Kamara has a ton of carries. The receptions will probably be there, but he was very inefficient in the receiving game last season. He had 6.2 yards per reception. It was a full 2.5 yards per reception below his career average entering the season. His longest run on his 180 carries was only 17 yards, 75 receptions, but longest reception there was only 25 yards, both lowest by a wide margin. There's just a lot of reasons to believe that he's breaking down. He doesn't really have any explosiveness left. So again, he's a floor pick. If you did go super risky early on, and maybe you didn't even have a running back, and you're I just need a running back at this point that's going to get me something. Maybe you're in full PPR as well. Then it's fine. But this is also in half PPR. In full PPR, you're probably going to have to spend, more of an early 4th round pick. And I just don't see it. Kendre, Taysom, they're going to take carries on the ground. I don't think they want to overload Kamara in the area, and he's just got no explosiveness left. I don't think the touchdown's going to be there. I don't think it's going to happen. And so floor pick, but I don't want a floor pick in round 5. Least favorite 6th round pick is probably Jaden Reed, going at the 6-11. I love him as a player. I do have him on my dynasty team, so I'm hoping for a very good season from him. My concern is just that the Packers are really going to spread the ball around a lot this season. They do have a ton of great wide receivers. Christian Watson obviously not remained the healthiest so far in his career. Seems like they may have figured out that hamstring issue, but he makes a big difference on offense when he is healthy. Dobbs, probably my least favorite personally, but apparently he's had a fantastic summer. He was great for them in the playoffs last season. He's going to have a role. I think Wicks is going to ascend in his second season. Bo Melton, a name that probably you should keep in mind in deeper leagues. Last round Underdog, they really like him and his speed. He's going to get some run. And so it's like, you got 5 wide receivers that are all going to get run. Do we really think that Jayden Reed's going to separate that much? I don't think so. And so I would rather not lock myself out of the rest, especially in a redraft league. Like if I take Jayden Reed, I'm probably not taking Christian Watson or Dobbs or taking a shot on, Wicks or Bo Melton later on. I'm probably just locking myself out of that offense because you don't really want to, in a redraft league, invest too much into one receiving core. Doing an Underdog, but not really in a redraft league. But I like all those other options a lot better. And so it's like by taking Reed, you're locking yourself out of that. And it's like, I don't really want to do that. So I don't think he's like a good enough pick compared to like the players really going around him. So for me, just kind of out on his ADP. I'd rather wait, 2 rounds, go with Watson, wait 8 rounds and go with Wicks. In round 7, least favorite pick is Tony Pollard going in the mid 7th. I do think Pollard was still working his way back from injury last season, and that's why his efficiency was so bad. Like I do kind of believe that he wasn't fully healthy, fully back to start the season, and then it kind of took him until later on to really get going, though to be fair, he never really got going. But there's also a chance that, he was really good before this injury, also in fantasy because and in real life, because he was in a limited role. Like he wasn't getting, 17, 20 touches in games. So he was able to remain hyper efficient. And we've seen plenty of times that running backs, that have this limited role are super efficient. Then when they get a larger role, we're like, oh, they're not really a type of player that excels in that role. Maybe that's the case with Tony Pollard. But also just what he showed us in the receiving game last season was not good. I mean, you'd think on a team that threw it as much as they did, and a team that had such little talent in the running game behind him, that he would have gone off. But his long reception was 60 yards, right? That was obviously great play, shows explosiveness, right? Besides that play, he had 54 other receptions, 4.6 yards per reception. That is impossibly bad. It would have been by far the lowest last season among running backs with at least 35 targets. Spears averaged 7.4. Take out his longest play, still had 6.6. I'm not just saying, remove Pollard, but he'd be the same as everyone else who removed their best play. Pollard was really, really inefficient on all but one play last season in the receiving game. And you think about it and you're like, okay, Spears is just better. He's just better in the receiving game. He's probably better at this point on the ground as well. But if we think about the situations they were in, Pollard should have had 75, 80 receptions last season. Given how much he was on the field on a team that threw it that much, he should have racked up a lot of receptions. He had fewer targets earned than Spears did. Spears was on the lowest passing volume team in the NFL. Pollard was on the highest. I just think it's just so clear that Spears is better in the receiving game, and I think he might be better on the ground as well, that I think this turns into a 1A or a 1-2 situation, or 1A, 1B, 1-2 situation with Spears in the lead. And if you can wait multiple rounds and draft Spears, why would you draft Tony Pollard if I don't think he's even going to be the most fantasy relevant on this team? Moving to round 8. Least favorite pick is Brian Robinson Jr. Going 804. It's just volume concerns with him, and volume concerns mostly in the receiving game. He is just a really inefficient running back, and so he does need a lot of volume to stabilize his numbers. And the problem is twofold. One, they have a rookie quarterback, but then also the rookie quarterback is hyper mobile. We've seen, countless studies that show us, and just obviously just thinking about it, hyper mobile quarterbacks just tend to dump off to running backs a little bit less often. If you're scrambling out of the pocket and you see a running back to dump off to, but you're super fast, you're super athletic, you're just going to scramble for 15 yards instead of dump off for 7, right? It just makes a lot of sense. So those receptions should be down. But then also when they get close to the end zone, we're going to have some rushing touchdowns vultured away as well by Daniels. But then second, you got Eckler there, right? And Eckler is objectively a better pass catcher than Gibson was. So we're going to see, him take a larger role than Gibson did, especially on those passing downs. I know Robinson got better in the receiving game last season, but I don't think anyone actually believes he's a better receiving back than Austin Eckler. The Commanders also now have Anthony Lynn as a run game coordinator. He was the head coach of the Chargers when Eckler broke out back in 2019 and 2020. And that was even when he was splitting with Melvin Gordon in 2019 and then Joshua Kelly. And if you can believe it, Kalen Ballage back in 2020. So you've got that like kind of coaching staff there that, does believe in Eckler, has seen what he can do, has put together an offense that he can excel in. I mean, Eckler's been good his entire career besides when he had a high ankle sprain. No one ever is good after high ankle sprain. I truly don't believe he's hit his cliff yet, especially because he doesn't need to do it all on the ground. He's probably going to have a very strong role in the receiving game. I just think that coupled with Daniels just really limits the ceiling for Brian Robinson, even with the elevated plays. So I just don't really want to go after him in drafts. Round 9, least favorite pick is Justin Herbert going the mid-ninth. Definitely a good quarterback. I'll never suggest otherwise. But in fantasy, he does need high-end volume to hit. This season, the Chargers are going to be extremely run-heavy. And when they do throw it, they don't have Keenan Allen. They don't have Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Gerald Everett. Like basically their entire starting lineup from last season is gone. And they only replaced it with Ladd McConkey, who's good, but is still a rookie and cannot be expected to be the next Keenan Allen right away. DJ Chark, Will Dissly, Gus Edwards, Dobbins, Vidal. This is not a cast that can replace the production from last season. And so if they're going to throw the ball way less, and when they do throw it, he doesn't have that great of weapons to throw to, his only out to really being someone we're starting in fantasy consistently in a 10 or a 12 team league is that he's going to run a lot more, which I think can happen, but I'm not super confident that it will. And so to me, I just don't see a reason to draft him. I would pass. Round 10, least favorite pick is Ezekiel Elliott going at 10.02. I just can't justify it. I have still not drafted him in 60, 65 drafts thus far. My plan is to do around 200 to 250 drafts, 200 to 250 paid drafts this season. And my plan is to have at most 1 or 2 shares in Zeke, but hopefully 0 shares. If he's going to break out this season, so be it. I am willing to lose because of that. I just don't see it. He's been dust for multiple seasons now, has zero ability to run away from defenders at this point. I know that Dallas is super thin in the running back room, but I honestly think that we're going to get a few players around the league that get cut that could easily be signed by them, or there could be a situation where a team doesn't cut someone they probably should in hopes they can trade him away for a late round pick, and that's also something we see Dallas go after. So I don't think it's going to be him and Dowdle all season. I think they're going to bring someone else in, and once that happens, his ADP is going way down because it's just too high right now. Round 11, least favorite pick is Mike Williams going in the early 11th. He turns 30 in October, coming off a torn ACL while changing teams. It's just 3 factors where you're that's not amazing. He's also at best their third best receiving option, and it's not like this is going to be a very high volume passing attack. I just find it hard to believe that he's going to be 100% this season, and that would be fine. It's okay to draft players coming off a torn ACL if we don't expect them to be 100%, if they're super insane athletes. If these are the best of the best athletes, we've seen a history of those players recovering. And even if they don't get to 100%, if you're starting it way higher, well, your 90% is still better than a lot of other players 100%. That's not really the case with Mike Williams, and he kind of just wins deep downfield. That's something that's going to be limited coming off the injury. I just don't really see it. I feel like there's going to be some good games, some games where he hits on multiple deep shots and he has a good game. But if we're sitting here in a redraft league trying to predict when to start him, I don't think we're ever going to do that with confidence. I think it's going to be a lot of games where he's got 3 to 5 targets and we're just I can really only start him when I have 2 injuries and a couple of bye weeks and I'm just praying he hits on a long touchdown. That's not really someone I want to go after. Those players, honestly, are the worst. Just avoid the headache. I would not draft him. I'd take a shot on someone who's just in a little bit of a better situation, not age 30, torn ACL, changing team. There's just like multiple things where there's so much unknown there, and I don't really see any semblance of upside. In round 12, my least favorite pick is Gabe Davis going to late 12th. With Josh Allen at quarterback, he had 2.2, 2.2, 3.2, and 2.6 receptions per game. That's not amazing. Finishes a wide receiver 70, 68, 35, and 50 in points per game. Again, with Josh Allen at quarterback, he's moving to a lower volume passing offense, to a much worse quarterback, likely operating as a Jaguars' fifth option on offense. That is absolutely a pass for me. And then finally, least favorite pick in round 13 is Adam Thielen, mid 13th. Had a great career, but he turns 34 before the season starts. Unless your name is Marvin Harrison, T.O., Reggie Wayne, Jerry Rice, Larry Fitzgerald, pretty unlikely you have a strong season at that age. He'll for sure be behind Deontay in targets. I think they're going to work in Leggett more as well. Just think about like this offense, right? You are the coach, you are the GM, you are someone high up in the Panthers organization. You've got a young quarterback, a young wide receiver core, a rookie in the wide receiver core that you want to feature, but then also a rookie running back. Like, everyone's young in this offense. It's a wasted play going to Adam Thielen when you've got all these players. Last season, they had nothing. They had absolutely no one to throw to. Mingo wasn't working out, and so they're like, well, whatever. Throw to Thielen because it's better than throwing the ball into the dirt, right? They have options now. I just don't think they're going to really go with Adam Thielen. These late picks are players you want to try and hit an upside for, because it's totally fine. If you're in round 13, it's one of your last picks, maybe your last wide receiver pick that you have, or second to last, take a shot, because if you miss, there's going to be great options on free agency. But you draft Thielen, there's no real chance that you hit on an amazing pick. Probably you're just going to look at him and be like, well, he got 3 for 40, and I don't know, maybe I kind of want to keep him on the roster. No. Take a shot on someone. If we happen to find out that in week 1 they're just not very good or the role stinks, you can cut them and get like all the players that are really good in week 1 of free agency. There's no real reason to draft Adam Thielen because there's no ceiling. The floor is there, but is it at 34? I don't know. Not an option I want to go with. So those are my least favorite picks in every round. If you want to see who I would be drafting with every pick, you can see that on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. I have full rankings for every format, full detailed projections for like 750 players in the league. I'll be back tomorrow with a Mock Draft Monday, and then live 6:30 Eastern on Tuesday to answer any questions you have. Please come to that, and make sure you're subscribed and click the bell icon so you don't miss that one or any of the videos. That, my friends, is the end of this one, and thanks for watching.